In this video, we're going to start the process of working with literal equations. So let's begin by looking at a problem. You plan to order white and red carnations for your sweetheart. The flower shop charges $2 per white carnation and $3 per red carnation. You want your total bill to come out to be $20. Is it possible to create a formula to help you determine the number of white carnations you can buy based on the number of red carnations you can buy? Now, this problem seems a little odd because you're asked to create a formula about flowers. Now, you may not be doing this in everyday life, but the concept is what we're trying to look for, is looking at setting up an equation to solve a problem. So in this particular problem, we need to consider what we're talking about. So we have two things we're looking at. We're looking at white carnations and we're looking at red carnations. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set up two variables. And we're going to say that X stands for the number of white carnations and that Y stands for the number of red. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set up an equation relating white, red, and $20, and then I'll see what I can do with it. So in the problem, I know I want my total bill to come out to be $20. That's what I'm shooting for, is 20. So where does my cost come from? Well, my cost comes from $2 for white carnation and $3 for red. So if I'm doing 2 for white, it's going to be 2x, because every carnation, white one, adds $2, plus 3 for every red. Now this is a different type of equation. Now before I solve it, let's give it a little bit of a definition and then we'll go from there. So this is what is called a literal equation. Now it's an equation that uses at least two different variables, and it's used to represent different problems. In our particular example, we're representing white carnations and we're representing red. Because we have two unknowns, we need two variables. Now you could be wondering, is it possible to solve this, to represent the white in terms of the red? And the answer to that question is yes. So I'm going to jump over to Graspable Math and show you how I can manipulate this like I would any other equation. Now that I'm here in Graspable Math, let's go ahead and insert the equation that we created. So I'm going to insert math expression and then type what we had. So 2 times white plus 3 times red equals 20. So I have this equation, and what it was asking me to do is write an equation basically relating the red to the white. And it's asking me to get the white by itself. So to get the white by itself, I'm going to have to do basically what I did before and solve this equation, get X by itself. Now, if this Y weren't here, what I would do first was I'd get rid of this plus 3. So if the Y were here, just a 3, I would undo this plus 3 with a minus 3. So to do that, I'm going to click and hold on the Y, press the space bar, so I highlight both, and I'm going to do what I do with anything else. I'm going to subtract it from both sides. Now notice here I'm subtracting the 3y, not just the 3, because these are all one term. So I want to move it all the way over so I can isolate the x by itself. Then when I click this button to try and combine like terms, notice they won't, because they're not like terms. The 20 doesn't have a y, whereas this one does. Now I want to finish isolating the x. So I'm going to take this 2, and well, I'm going to divide. So I divide both sides by 2. And there we go. I have x by itself, and I've related the red to the white. So let's show our steps. Now this looks a little odd that we have an equation as an answer, but that's okay. Now this is a good relationship to talk about something called a formula. Now a formula is an equation that states a specific relationship among quantities. So a great example of a formula that everyone knows is length times width. Area equals length times width. People love to talk about the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Formulas are very specific literal equations. They show specific relationships, and we like to use this skill to manipulate those equations, those formulas. So we're going to do this one. So I have here area equals length times width, and what I want to do is I want to write the equation in terms of the width. So that means if I'm given the length and the area, I can find the width. Well, let's think about this for a moment. So here I have this length times width, and I need to move this to the other side. So I'm just going to grab it. I'm going to bring it to the other side. And notice it turns into division, because I'm doing area divided by length because I was multiplying. So that's it. I've solved this. I've written my equation in terms of the width. We're just trying to isolate that particular variable. Now, one common thing you're going to be asked to do is you're going to be asked to isolate y. So it'll say something like, solve the following equations for y. Essentially, what that's asking you to do is to get y by itself. So let's take a look at these problems here. So I want to get rid of this 5x. I need to get x to the other side. Now, if this x weren't here and we're just a 5, what would we do? We would subtract 5 from both sides. So we're going to do the same thing here. So I'm going to click and hold, press the space bar, and drag this 5x to the other side. And notice it becomes a minus 5x. Next, to undo this times 10, I'm going to divide by 10. And there we go. We've moved our x, we've divided, and we have a plain y equals this. Now for right now, this is okay. We'll do some more simplifying with this later. Let's try another one. So here I have negative 2y plus 2x equals 20. So let's start by getting rid of this 2x because I want to get y by itself. So I'm going to click and hold, and I'm going to move it to the other side. And notice it turns to a minus because I'm subtracting 2x from both sides. Next, to undo this times negative 2, I'm going to divide by negative 2. And there we go. We're all set. And let's go ahead and show our work. Here's what I want you to do. There are 2 questions here. I would like you to pause the video, and I'd like you to solve for y. Start with the left one, and then we'll go over it. So let's give it a shot. So for this one here, we're going to start by moving the 3x. Well, it's a plus 3x, so to undo plus 3x, we're going to subtract 3x. So I'm going to click and hold, press the space bar, and notice it turns to a minus 3x. Then all I have to do is undo this times negative 6. I'm going to divide by negative 6. And we're all set. 2 steps. Let's try this next one. So I want to first start, I'm going to go ahead and pause this and try it, and then I'll go over it. I got a little ahead of myself. All right, so for this last one, we want to start by moving this negative 2x because I want to get y by itself. So to do that, we have to add 2x to both sides. So I'm going to click and hold, press the space bar, and I'm going to bring it to the other side. And notice, got to make sure it goes all the way over. Here we go. It turns to a plus 2x. And I can't combine these because they're not like terms. Then I need to go ahead and undo this multiplication. So to undo this multiplication, I use division. And I'm done. I've got y by itself, and I've got an equation. So that is a beginning tutorial of how to solve literal equations.